Hi guys, welcome back. It's Matilda. Let's talk about where Bitcoins come from and in a nutshell, how do they work? So the first Bitcoin came as a mining fee on the first block of the blockchain. So the blockchain can think of it as a chain of blocks with many transactions per block, and those transactions have been validated by nodes and they are put onto the blockchain by miners. And blockchain miners are people or a group of people with a lot of computing power that are basically just solving hash puzzles. And every time they validate or add a block into the blockchain, they're rewarded with a mining fee. And the mining fee is in the form of Bitcoin, and that's how they're generated. So the Bitcoin blockchain is a decentralized and distributed ledger. And what that means is that unlike the ledger systems that we have today, where it's controlled by the government or controlled and validated by the government or banks, these ledgers are validated by nodes all around the world, and you can set one up yourself if you really wanted to. And that just decentralizes the power in the hands of society and not in one authority. So the Bitcoin blockchain is a transaction ledger. So what that means is that if I send you $10 and you send me $5, what's recorded in the ledger is that $10 was sent from one wallet to another wallet and $5 was sent from your wallet to my wallet. On the other hand, you also have balance ledgers, which the Ethereum blockchain is based off of, and that one is just saying that instead of $10 goes from here to here and $5 goes from here to here, you have a balance of $5 and $5 overall. So practically what happens in a transaction? If I wanted to send you $10, what actually happens on the blockchain? So if I send you $10, that's recorded as a transaction, meaning that from wallet A, my wallet, $10 is sent to wallet B, your wallet. And then this transaction is broadcast to nodes, and then the nodes will validate this transaction and send this transaction to a mempool. And from the mempool is where miners will pick up the transaction and put it into the blocks. And then they will solve the hash puzzles and put the blocks on the blockchain. And so why would they pick your transaction to put onto the block? If there are millions of transactions happening, what makes yours better to put onto the block than others? Well, really nothing, except for you will attach a transaction fee onto the transaction, which goes to the miners once they put it onto the blockchain. So this is why we see transaction fees are so high these days, because if I'm going to work to put a transaction onto the block, why would I work for your 5 cents if someone else pays me $5 to do theirs? Theoretically, you can put your transaction and attach a fee for 1 cent onto the transaction, but practically it will sit around in the mempool forever because no one's going to want to do a job for 1 cent. Okay, let's go a little bit more technical about what's actually in the block for these blockchains. So I said earlier that the transactions are in the block, and that is true, but there's a lot more other things that are in the block as well. So there are typically 6 things in a transaction block. One, you'll have your block header. So if I have block 1, block 2, block 3, your block 1 is your block header. Okay, so that's your header of the block that you're currently dealing with. After that, you have a hash of the previous block header. So a hash is really just a cryptographic function to encode. So if I'm working on block 1, I'll have block 1 as the header, and then I'll have a hash of block 0. And then after that, I'll have a timestamp. So when is the block put onto the blockchain? And then I'll have a nonce. So this is a random number that is used one time, and that's why it's called nonce. And we'll get back to this when we talk about mining. And then you'll have a Merkle root, which is essentially just the root of the hash of all your transactions. So it's not a hard concept, but it might be a bit difficult to explain if I don't put a picture. So I'm going to put a picture right here. But basically what it is that say you have 4 transactions, transaction 1, 2, 3, 4. Merkle root is going to be your root of the hash tree. So I'm going to hash transaction 1, I'm going to hash transaction 2, I'm going to hash transaction 3, and hash transaction 4. And then after that, I'm going to hash the hash of transaction 1 and the hash of transaction 2 together. And then I'm going to hash the hash of transaction 3 and the hash of transaction 4. And then I'm going to hash the hash of both of those transactions. So in the end, I'm going to have one hash, which is basically the hash of all my transactions for that block. And that's the Merkle root that's added into the block. And then lastly, you have your body of transaction data. So basically the whole idea is just to put all of the data of the transaction into the block so that the transaction data is encoded and also allow for easy verification. So I hope this helps and at least gives a high-level overview of what exactly are we talking about when we say blockchain, when we say Bitcoin. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them below and I'll try my best to answer them. Talk to you guys later. Bye!